Hello everybody. Today we will be making a worm bin, which is a nice way to compost inside or outside using worms, and it's very nutritious for the soil and it doesn't cost very much money to make, so I'd highly recommend making a big one outdoors or a nice medium-sized worm bin indoors. So what you're going to want to do is go to the hardware store or anywhere where you can buy plastic bins and buy two of them that fit into each other and make sure they have a nice snug fit on the lid. And then all you're going to want to do is get a screwdriver. Of course, you can use an electric screwdriver. I'm just going to use a handheld one for now because it's quiet while I make the video. And it's a nice large hole that I can drill into the plastic with the handheld. So you can just leave them together like this. You're going to be drilling on the inside bin on the top. And I've marked off a hole for a visual representation. You can see where we're going to be poking holes, and you can just make a nice line of holes. You don't have to do too many, maybe one every inch or so, and then, you can put some on this side and then put some on the other side. And this is so that the compost can breathe. You don't want to have a closed off container with compost, of course, because compost will expand the container if there's not a hole. Of course, it produces CO2 and heat, and it'll expand while it breaks down. So you want some holes so it can breathe. And we're also going to put holes onto the bottom of the inside container. And I'll explain why we're going to do that in a minute. So I just put 5 holes on each side. And then we'll call it good on the holes. But this is an important step. You don't want to hear a loud boom in the middle of the night because you made a compost bin with no holes in it, and it creates pressure. So this is some pretty basic biology here and why we're going to put holes into the container. 3 more holes and we'll be done. Something else you're going to want to use that I almost forgot is you're going to want to get some kind of brick or cement block to put underneath the container. And we're going to create a very simple drip system. But don't worry about that, it's very simple. Okay, so we've got the holes. So now we want to take these containers apart so we can drill holes into the bottom. Okay, so there's the hole that we just, there's the bin that we just drilled into. You can see there's holes at the top. So these holes are for the compost to breathe. It'll produce CO2 and other chemicals, and they'll just come right out of there, out of the holes. Perfectly safe to breathe, of course. Just like very low amounts of different elements. The thing you have to worry the most about is liquid when you water, so that you don't produce mold. Of course, oxygen mixed with different fungi and stuff like that, it'll produce mold if there's water present. Or mostly if there's water sitting there. It can be moist, of course. But if you have sitting water, it will turn very moldy very quickly. So we're going to make sure we create a drip system. But first we're going to drill more holes right here. And let me explain very quickly why we're going to drill holes at the bottom. Basically, we're going to have these two containers together, right? And there's going to be worms on the inside along with food that worms eat, which is basically just like paper and vegetable scraps. And then when we want to harvest the worm castings, which is what the worms poop out basically, which is what makes such wonderful compost. And the worm castings are going to be underneath, in between the two bins. So the holes at the bottom that we're going to drill right now, that's so we can get the worms out of the way. You put food up top, and then the worms go to the top, and then you take the compost worm castings out of the bottom. So don't go too close or you might, make a mistake, but, Of course, you should use an electric drill. But we're just going to go ahead and do it like this for now, so you can actually hear me, and it's just easier. So I'm just going to put a couple holes on either side on the bottom. And the worms will find the food. They're very good at finding, basically, we're going to be putting like little strips of cardboard in here because they like wood. They like wood hummus. And they like decomposed vegetables and grass and plant matter. Okay. Let's put a couple holes on the other side on the bottom. Right, just like this, except near the bottom. One, two, three, four, and five. And then if you want to, you can put a couple more holes on either side. This is, of course, enough holes. So we're almost done. You can see how simple this system is. Okay, so we have the bottom container. We have the top container with the holes. Make sure that's nice and snug. And we have the lid. So what you're going to do is you're just going to fill this with, just make sure it's above the hole, maybe halfway or a third, with some soil. Just get some potting soil. Get a nice container of organic potting soil. And then water it. Put some strips of cardboard on top with a little bit of maybe some green vegetables underneath, not too much. And then throw the worms inside. Then the bin is on top. Okay? So it'll breathe out of these holes. And then the hole in the bottom is for harvesting the worm castings, which will, develop in this bottom area. Right here. Okay? And then there's holes on the inside that we drilled. And then when you want to harvest the worm castings at the bottom, you put more food on top and the worms will come up. You take the top bin out and harvest them. Okay, now we're going to build the drip system, which is a very simple two-part system. Very low tech, easy, and shouldn't cost you very much money. And I've got a nice brick that I found, and I'm going to put that underneath. See? I'm going to take the other lid, and I'm going to put that on the bottom. And then when you water, the excess liquid will pool into the upside down lid, and that is called worm tea, and it's a liquid substrate. And that is highly nutritious, so you should save it. All right, well, there it is. Looks nice, doesn't it? It's simple science, it's low tech, and it'll be highly nutritious for your soil. Okay, everybody, thanks for watching.